Hello everybody, this is Good Samaritan here. I wanted to take you through our CCNA Lab 3, and what we're going to be doing in this case is going to be static default routing and also regular static routing in Lab 3 here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go into router 1, and from here I'm going to go to our global config. This is where we do our static routing from, and I'm going to create a static default route in this case. So anything that doesn't match the entries that are in my routing table that were built by us creating the interfaces and bringing those interfaces up is going to be added right here in our global config. So we're going to type in IP route, and then to create the gateway of last resort, also known as a static default route, we're going to type 0.0.0.0, which means any network, and then 0.0.0.0, which means any subnet mask, and then we want to send it. Now there's two choices that we can send it. We can send it to an outbound interface. Now I'm on router 1. That would be using serial 000 to pass that over to router 2, or we could put the next hop IP address, and the next hop from router 1 would be router 2's interface over here, serial 000, which has this IP. So 193.168.2.2/30, and we just put the IP address, and that's the one that I like to use is the next hop IP. So I'm going to say 193.168.2.2, and I'm going to go ahead and press enter. I'm going to go ahead and save this. So do copy run start. So we can take the configuration that's in RAM and put it to NVRAM. So in case we were to reboot or lose power, we would keep that configuration. So I'll press enter twice, and then let's view the routing table. So do show IP route, and we'll add the word static at the end so we just see our static route. And there it is. It shows up the letter S for static. The asterisk means it's a candidate default route. We see the 4 zeros/0, which means any network with any mask that doesn't match our table, we're going to use this route. This is called the administrative distance. Static routes have an administrative distance of 1, and administrative distance is used as a tiebreaker in case there's something competing with this route. The lower administrative distance will win, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail in a later lab when we start talking about dynamic routing protocols and what are their administrative distance versus static routes. So static route to and next hop IP has a very low administrative distance of 1. There's no metric at all for a static route, so that's going to be a 0. And then right here we have the next hop. Okay. All right, so if I minimize this, and I kind of want to do the same thing on router 3, anything that's not in its routing table that matches those specific subnets and networks, I want to forward that over to router 2, where router 2 is kind of like our simulated, provider, if you will, for this exercise. I'm going to go ahead and click on router 3 and basically do the same thing, pass everything over to router 2. So I'll type EN to go to privileged mode, which is an abbreviation for enable, configure space T, which is our global config, and then again IP route, and then 0.0.0.0 space 0.0.0.0 space, and now I want to send that over to router 2's serial 001 IP, which in this case is 193.168.3.1 /30, but you just put the IP. So 193.168.3.1, press enter, and let me widen this a little bit. And again, if we do show IP route, and if I just want to see the static routes, I could put static at the end of that command, and there's our static default route, also known as a gateway of last resort. Now from there, what I want to do is go to router 2 and put just a regular static route pointing router 2 to get to the network that's behind router 1, and also router 2 to get to the network that's behind router 3. We're not doing that yet. Well, that'll be a later lab, But just to make this routing work, I'm going to go to router 2 and add in those routes. And these are just going to be regular static routes at this point. So en config space t, and then let me widen this a little bit. So we're going to type IP route again, but now we're going to put a specific network. So we're going to say 192.168.1.0. Now that, remember, I'm on router 2, and the network I'm trying to get to is over here, which is the 192.168.1.0/24 network. So I'm putting that, and then I want to put the subnet mask that I'm using, which again is a /24, which would be equal to dotted decimal as 255.255.255.0. And then the next hop is router 2 is going to send that to this interface here on router 1, but I'm going to use the IP of that interface, and that's going to be 193.168.2.1. And that's the IP right here of that serial interface. I'm going to go ahead and press enter, and then IP route. I'm going to do the opposite. Let me move this over. And again, I want to tell router 2 how to get to the network that's behind router 3 by sending the packet over to router 3. And it's going to be the 193.168.3.2 to get to this 192.168.4.0/24 subnet. So again, 192.168.4.2, 255.255.255.0, and 193.168.3.2. And let's go ahead and save it. So do copy, run start. Press enter twice. And let's do a do show IP route static. And you're going to notice a difference that these static routes don't have the asterisk. They're not static default routes. They're just regular old static routes. So they show up with the letter S. And of course, we see the network we're trying to get to with the mask. We see the same administrative distance, which is 1 for a static route going to a next hop IP. There's no metric. And again, we've got the next hop address. And that's gonna, we also see the one that go the other direction to get to the backside of router 3. So now to test it, I'm going to minimize this, and we're going to go ahead and go to router 1, and let's see if router 1 can ping router 3's IP. So I'm going to type Control-Z to go quickly back to privilege mode, and I'm going to type ping, and let's see if we can get to the 192.168.4.1, and notice we could get there. Okay. So we do see that. So that did work. And now we are cooking with oil. And there's a brief demonstration of just doing some regular old static routes. I haven't really done anything with the loopbacks. So that's going to be in a later lab when we start using those. So this is going to be the end for our small static routing. And check out CCNA Lab 4. That'll be implementing RIP version 1, and then we'll even upgrade it to RIP version 2. So we'll see you next time.